Jai Srila Prabhupada, expert musician, mridanga player, cartel player, singer. This is one of the qualities of a devotee. They're expert in many things. And Prabhupada was a very expert musician. It's so beautiful. Thank you, Venkat, for playing that historic recording of Prabhupada playing the mridanga. It's captivating. It's certainly for all of us that have been members of the society for a long time. We're very familiar, relatively speaking, long time, since the 60s and 70s. We can remember fondly being enamored or attracted to the sound of the mridanga and the way Prabhupada played it and the cartels. And he sang expertly. It even attracted the famous music group, the Beatles. So we want to welcome everyone tonight to the Hare Krishna Society lecture on Caitanya-caritāmṛta, sponsored by the Prabhupada Disciples Association, who are producing it. And we're moving forward through the readings of these books as a medicine for everyone who is interested in making spiritual advancement. There is a coma-like state that pervades the entire material world and the conditioned souls living in it, bitten by the serpent of Maya. So you become unconscious, unaware of who you are, what you're doing here, and how to become awakened out of this conditioned state. So we know, all of us have been attending the classes. Vijaya Pandit in Italy, it's so good to see you. Pana in Australia, all the devotees that are with us. We know that the remedy is regular hearing and chanting of the transcendental messages of Lord Chaitanya as transmitted by the pure devotee spiritual master. And it's this Prabhupada Disciples Association, we mandate that we only read the original unadulterated books from Srila Prabhupada that he gave to us during the evolution of the mission of Lord Chaitanya while he was personally with us and guiding us in our practice of bhakti yoga with discipline for the disciple to follow these rules and regulations without fail. Last week, we introduced some of these rules. We had quite a rousing conversation on them. And I saw Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was so kind. I tried to copy it, Prabhu, the original rules that were written by Prabhupada in 1966. And I do recall in Hamilton in 1970, we had a copy of those rules pasted on the bulletin board in the rented house that we used when we started that small preaching center back then here in the city. And by the way, there are 19 Prabhupada disciples from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. So we're very proud of the fact that Krishna Consciousness was injected into this steel city by the mercy of the devotees from Buffalo who came here and chanted Hare Krishna in 1969 on the streets. I still remember seeing them on the streets wondering, what the heck are these people? They look like they're from outer space with shaved heads and robes and painting different marks on their face. I remember arguing with them. What the heck are you guys doing? Are you crazy? But of course, that changed. So anyway, Thank you again for everyone for joining us. It's such a pleasure. Thank you, Vinkat, for your diligent participation. There's one thing, starting something. There's another thing to maintain it. And then there's another level to complete it. All these activities are necessary in order to be successful. It's not just you start and stop. You keep going. You never give up. That's our position. So please, don't mind me. I'm so inspired by a few things that have happened this week. Krishna's blessing on us, and we're looking forward to announcing those things in the very near future as we unfold this magic to the conditioned souls on this planet. So we're back here at the Jaladutta Diary. Fantastic. I had a chance to read it already. I don't mind reading it again because it's nectar every time you read it. I'm learning so much more as the days go on, working with all of you together in this transcendental exercise of Krishna consciousness. So here we are. Now, Prabhupada's talking about himself arriving in New York, and he was by himself, and then he was picked up by Gopal. His father was known to me. His father was, then his agent got me on the bus. So on the bus, I went to Pennsylvania. Sorry. That's a long drive. Prabhupada. Yes. 9 hours on the bus. And I took a little chipped rice and whatever I had with me. So I got down from the ship about 1 o'clock. Then I had to wait for the bus till 5 o'clock. So Prabhupada, remember, this is September 19th, 1965. So he had gone from Boston on the 18th. He made the journey up to New York City and got off there. He had already cleared customs, by the way, and immigration in Boston. So he was free to travel in America up to New York City without any legal implications. Very interesting, eh, Vijay Pandit? Very interesting. Then at 5 o'clock, the bus started. About 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, I went to Pennsylvania, and just in front of the bus, Gopal was standing with his car. That, what is called van car? So Prabhupada is very new to this modern technology. Hare Krishna, station wagon. Prabhupada, station wagons. So he took my luggage. And from there, 30 miles off, the Butler County. So I went there. Then at night, he took the next day, he had many rooms in his apartment. So he arranged for me to stay at the YMCA nearby them. I think there's a picture of the YMCA. I don't know where it is here, so we'll save that for later. I don't want to slow the reading down, but typical accommodation for someone that's without money. You never actually stayed with him then, Hari Sori says. Prabhupada said, I was taking my meals there. Here's a very interesting part of the story. Hari Sori, and just keeping a room at the YMCA? I thought it was the YWCA, Vinkat, was it? I guess YMCA.
No, I think YMCA, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because he had no room, so I was staying there. Hari Sori, then he arranged programs, speaking programs. Prabhupada, his wife Sally, she was arranging. A very intelligent girl. They were of the same age, about 30. Gopal was more than 30, and it was indistinct. I saw that she was feeding her child, one boy, meat powder. Oh my God. Hare Krishna, beef bouillon? Prabhupada, I do not know what is the name, but I asked, she said, it is meat powder. That is the system. When they're very young and they can't eat solids, Prabhupada, with hot water. Yes, they have instant meals for children, all different kinds of things. Prabhupada. So Gopal was very much pleased that he could get some Indian chapatis like this. Hari, sorry, so he had to cook for him? You took your cooker with you? Is that the same one? No. So I lived with him for 21 days. Then I came to New York. Hari, sorry. Yes, that picture in the Butler Eagle, it's in the Vyas Puja book this year. Prabhupada, yes, yes. Butler County, it is good. There were many churches. People have got so many churches. Sometime that one piece of wire lying in one place, one piece of bamboo was lying in another place, and one dry shell of squash was lying. So one intelligent man collected, so this dry shell became the tampuras, what is called. Hari, sorry, I don't know, like sound chamber? What do you call it? Prabhupada, sound chamber may be called. So with the dry squash, he made the sound chamber. The bamboo he fixed up and the wire upon it, then it became a tin. So it's some kind of an instrument that he's devised, Dvaipana. You know, he did what he could. Very innovative. Just love the story. It's just amazing. The innovation. Prabhupada, so simple, but so pure and focused. Our organization is like that. I was loitering in the street. Somebody was over there, somebody was there, not combined together. International Society String Band, yes. Separately, we are all useless. Eh? So we'll end there. What Prabhupada's saying. United, we become strong, and separated, we become weak. So our goal is to unify our effort with as many devotees as possible and push on the Sankirtan mission of Srila Prabhupada with an unadulterated, unedited message. So Venkat, please, if you could move forward and read further into the Back to Godhead magazine from 1944.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome.
So we're reading the first article from Back to Godhead, which is also entitled Back to Godhead. We're almost at the end of this article, so we can just continue with that. I wish that everyone who is enlightened and educated of all nationality may take active interest in this periodical publication for wide circulation, as this paper will contain only the transcendental message of the great savants of India, and especially of Lord Chaitanya, the Godhead incarnate, who descended for the deliverance of all fallen souls in the present age. My duty will be to simply repeat in the Back to Godhead, just like an interpreter, what I have heard from and what I have been ordered to deliver by my great spiritual master, His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Nothing will be manufactured by me by my mental concoction. Such words will descend as sound transcendental, and when they are given proper serving reception by the oral channel, surely they will act like medicine to carry all back to home and back to Godhead. It is proposed that at least part by part, issues of this literature shall be published every year, and the subscription is fixed up at ₹6 per annum in India or 15 shillings per annum abroad. The writers of this paper will be mostly those who have dedicated their lives, resources, intelligence, and speeches for the service of the Absolute Personality of Godhead and for the welfare of all entities. The readers will therefore derive the highest amount of benefit by their association if they will simply sacrifice a little time for the service of Godhead, as will be directed in this paper from time to time. Surely they will go back to Godhead, and the present rotten world will be transformed into the kingdom of God, as they will learn to acknowledge the sovereign authority of God in home and outside. The subject matters delineated in the pages of Back to Godhead may seem to be very dry in the beginning, as the messages are from a different sphere altogether. But still, we have to give attention to the messages if we really mean to cure the disease of nescience and go back to Godhead. Sugar candy is never sweet to those who are suffering from the disease of the bile. But still, sugar candy is the medicine for bilious patients. The taste of sugar candy will gradually be revived if the bilious patients go on taking sugar candy regularly for the cure of the disease. We recommend the same process to the readers of Back to Godhead. Godhead is one without a second, and all living entities are His eternal subordinate transcendental servitors. Realization of this transcendental relation will be the attempt of this paper, and therefore there is no bar for anyone in the world, irrespective of color, creed, and nationality, to go back to Godhead. Abhay Charande, editor and founder.
Excellent. So we'll finish that section for today, and we'll move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, led by our Guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Everyone, please chant along if you can. Keep your mic muted. I noticed there is feedback. I watched one of our shows, so please keep your mic muted, but at the same time, chant along. And then after that, we'll go directly into the reading of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, being led by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana-nandana. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana-nandana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridham ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the assembled Lord.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. We'll be reading a few verses from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta from Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 18 to 21. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Caitanya in Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra. And glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Text 19. Etina Thakur Gaudiya ki Karye Cheno Yatmasat. Etinira Charana Vandana Tire Morenat. These three deities of Vrindavana, Madana Mohana, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text 20. Grantera Rambikari Mangala Acharana, Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text 21. Tinera smaranioi vigna vinashana, anayasioi nijavan chita purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Text 22. Simangala charanoi trivida prakar vastu nirdesha shiravada namaskaram. The invocation involves three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. So welcome everyone to this reading of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. We are reading from the original, unrevised, non-adulterated version published in 74-75, all synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. We are reading from Adi Lila, chapter 2, text 31. Shishu Vatsahari Brahma Kari Aparad, Aparad Kshamayati Magena Prasad. Shishu, playmates. Vatsa, calves. Hari, stealing. Brahmā, Lord Brahma. Kari, making. Aparada, offense. Aparada, offense. Kshamayate, to pardon. Magena, begged. Prasada, mercy. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. After Brahma had offended Krishna by stealing his playmates and cows, he begged the Lord's pardon for his offensive act and prayed for the Lord's mercy. Text 32. Tomar nabi padmoete amara janmodai, tumi pita matami tomara tanai. Tomar, your Nabi Padma, lotus of the navel, Aete, from, Amara, my, Janma Udaya, birth, to me, you, Pita, father, Mata, mother, Ami, I, Tomara, your, Tanaya, son. Translation by His Divine Grace. I took birth from the lotus that grew from your navel. Thus you are both my father and my mother, and I am your son. Text 33. Pita mata balakira annalaya porad, aporada kshama morakaraha prasad. Pita, father. Mata, mother. Balakera, of the child. Na, not. Laya, take seriously. Aparada, the offense. Aparada, the offense. Kshama, please pardon. More, unto me. Karaha, please show. Prasada, mercy. Translation. Parents never take seriously the offenses of their children. I therefore beg your pardon and ask for your benediction. Text 34. Krishna kahena Brahma tomara pita Narayana, amigo patumi koeche amara nandana. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Kahena, says, Brahma, of Lord Brahma. Tomara, your, Pita, father. Narayana, Lord Narayana. Ami, I am. Gopa, coward boy. To me, you. Kaiche, how. Amara, my. Nandana, son. Sri Krishna said, O Brahma, your father is Narayana. I am but a coward boy. How can you be my son? Text 35. Brahma balena tumi kinao Narayana. Tumi Narayana shunatan harakarana. Brahma, Lord Brahma. Balena says, to me, you. Kina, how are not. Narayana, Lord Narayana. To me, you. Narayana, Lord Narayana. Shuna, please hear. Tahara, of that. Karana, reason. Translation. Brahma replied, are you not Narayana? You are certainly Narayana. Please listen as I state the proofs. Text 36. Prakrita srishtya yata jiva rupa taharye atma tumi mula swarupa. Prakrita, material. Aprakrita, and spiritual. Srishtya, in the creations. Yata, as many as there are. Jiva Rupa, the living beings. Tahara, of them. Ye, who? Atma, the super soul. To me, you. Mula Swarupa, ultimate source. Translation. All the living beings within the material and spiritual worlds are ultimately born of you, but you are the super soul of them all. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The cosmic manifestation is generated by the interaction of the three modes of material nature. The transcendental world has no such material modes, although it is nevertheless full of spiritual variegatedness. In the spiritual world, there are also innumerable living entities who are eternally liberated, engage in transcendental loving service to Lord Krishna. The conditioned souls who remain within the material cosmic creation are subjected to the threefold miseries and pangs of a material nature. They exist in different species of life because they are eternally averse to transcendental loving devotion to the Supreme Lord. Kṛṣṇa is the original source of all living entities because they're all expansions of his marginal potency. Some of them are conditioned by material nature, whereas others are under the protection of the spiritual nature. The material nature is a conditional manifestation of spiritual nature, just as smoke is a conditional stage of fire. Smoke is dependent on fire, but in a blazing fire, there is no place for smoke. Smoke disturbs, but fire serves. The serving spirits of the residents of the transcendental world is displayed in 5 varieties of relationships with the Supreme Lord, who is the central enjoyer. In the material world, everyone is a self-centered enjoyer of mundane happiness and distress. One considers himself the Lord of everything and tries to enjoy the illusory energy, but he is not successful because he is not independent. He is but a minute particle of the energy of Lord Kṛṣṇa. All living beings exist under the control of the Supreme Lord, who is therefore called Narayana. Text 37. Prithivi yaeche gata kulera karana ashray, jivera nidana tumi saravashraya. Prithivi, the earth, yaeche, just as, gata, of earthen pots, kulera, of the multitudes, karana, the cause, ashraya, the shelter, jivera, of the living beings, nidana, root cause, to me, you, sarva ashraya, shelter of all. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. As the earth is the original cause and shelter of all pots made of earth, so you are the ultimate cause and shelter of all living beings. Purport by His Divine Grace. As the vast earth is the source for the ingredients of all earthen pots, so the Supreme Lord is the source for the complete substance of all individual living entities. The cause of all causes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of the living entities. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:10, where the Lord said, Bijam mam sarva bhutanam, I am the seed of all living entities. And in the Upanishads, which say, Nityo nityanam, chetanas chetananam, the Lord is the supreme leader amongst all the eternal living beings. The Lord is the reservoir of all cosmic manifestation, animate and inanimate. The advocates of Vishishtadvaitavada philosophy explain the Vedanta Sutra by saying that although the living entity has 2 kinds of bodies, subtle consisting of mind, intelligence, and false ego, and gross, consisting of the 5 basic elements. And although he thus lives in 3 bodily dimensions, gross, subtle, and spiritual, he is nevertheless a spiritual soul. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who emanates the material and spiritual world, is the Supreme Spirit. As an individual spirit soul is almost identical to his gross and subtle bodies, so the Supreme Lord is almost identical to the material and spiritual worlds. The material world, full of conditioned souls trying to lord it over matter, is a manifestation of the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the spiritual world, full of perfect servitors of the Lord, is a manifestation of his internal energy. Since all living entities are minute sparks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the Supreme Soul in both the material and spiritual worlds. The Vaishnavas following Lord Chaitanya stress the doctrine of Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva, which states that the Supreme Lord, being the cause and effect of everything, is inconceivably simultaneously one with his manifestations of energy and different from them. Text 38. Nara Shabde Kahe Sarva Jivera Nichai, Ayana Shabde Te Kahe Tahara Ashrai. The word Nara refers to the aggregate, Nara Shabde, by the word Nara. Kahe, one means, Sarva Jivera, of all living entities. Nichaya, the assemblage. Ayana Shabdete, by the word Ayana. Kahe, one means, Tahara, of them. Ashraya, the refuge. Translation. The word Nara refers to the aggregate of all the living beings, and the word Ayana refers to the refuge of them all. Text 39. Atoeva tumiao mulanarayana, ekaitu shuni dvitiya karana. Ataeva, therefore, to me, you, au, are, mula, original, Narayana, Narayana, this, eka, one, etu, reason, shuna, please listen, dvitiya, second, karana, to the reason. Translation. You are therefore the original Narayana. This is one reason. Please listen as I state the second. Text 40. Jivera Ishvara Purushadi Avatar, Tanha Saboete Tomar Ishvarya Par. Jivera, of the living beings, Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. Purusha Adi, Purusha incarnations, etc. Avatara, incarnations. Tanha, them. Saba, all. Aite, then. Tomara, your. Aishvarya, opulences. Apara, boundless. Translation. The direct lords of the living beings are the Purusha incarnations, but your opulence and power are more exalted than theirs. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyayam Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurat Vishe Namaham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanandam Shri Advaita Gadhadaram Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brindam Shri Rup Shri Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatam Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. So this sequence of verses from Caitanya-caritāmṛta is very important. Of course, Srila Prabhupada has often said that every verse in his books is important. But what we have here is the paraphrasing or explanation of a conversation between Lord Brahmā, who is the creator of the universe, and Lord Krishna. This is in the Bhagavatam referred to as the Brahmā Vimohana Lila, the transcendental pastimes where Krishna stole all the cows and calves and then eventually returned them. And Brahmā was bewildered and realized that he had made a great offense against Lord Krishna. And he is basically explaining that, requesting forgiveness for his offenses. And Lord Krishna is explaining here, and even Lord Brahmā is explaining 36, 37, the position of the living entities. We see in text 36 where Lord Brahmā says, all the living beings within the material and spiritual worlds are ultimately born of you, for you are the super soul of them all. So this is there are very detailed explanations in the Srimad Bhagavatam about the creation of the material world, the origin of the living entities, the different stages of creation, the different births of the living entities, how this entire cosmic manifestation comes about. So this is a very important discussion. We see in various religious organization or religious traditions, there are some summary descriptions of how the creation takes place. Now, we are not about to criticize anybody's beliefs or pious belief. That is nice. If one recognizes that everything comes from God, or that God originates everything, that is a good point. We see in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Janmadyasa yataha, also in the Vedanta Sutra, that everything comes. Janmadi means creation, maintenance, and destruction of the world. Everything comes from this great personality. We see in the Bhagavad Gita in various places, Prabhupada is quoting, Bijanmam Sarva Bhutanam. He's also quoting from the Katha Upanishad, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam, Eko Bahunam Yovidadati Kaman. That personality, Eko Bahunam, who satisfies the desires of all living entities, that is Krishna. So how this personality comes to this world and engages in his transcendental pastimes, this is the subject matter of the 10th canto, the Dashamaskanda of Srimad Bhagavatam. But there is also the transcendental Leela of how this material world is created, of how the various Purusha avatars are coming to this world. Interestingly, in 1972 in Vrindavan, there was one sannyasi who came there And Prabhupada was having, his name was Subal Swami, very nice devotee. He was very learned in the philosophy. He had studied Prabhupada's books very nicely. So what happens, we were in a room with Srila Prabhupada, and he was with his god brother, O.B.L. Kapoor. O.B.L. Kapoor was a disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. Used to live in Vrindavan, and every time Srila Prabhupada would visit Vrindavan, O.B.L. Kapoor would come and meet with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada would have very lively discussions with him. He was very appreciative of Srila Prabhupada and his transcendental movement. So on this occasion in the evening, Prabhupada raised the issue, can anybody explain the three Vishnus? So Subal raised his hands and he quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, the explanation of Karana Dakshaya Vishnu, Garbho Dakshaya Vishnu, and Kshiro Dakshaya Vishnu. He gave a very nice, detailed, systematic explanation, and he quoted from Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada was very happy. Prabhupada smiled and he pointed to Dr. Kapoor, just see how these devotees, Americans and Europeans, have learned this Gaudiya philosophy, the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya and Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada was very happy to see his disciple explaining like that. So this is a very important point. There is a statement in some of the Samhitas called Vishnos tu Trini Rupani, that these three Purusha avatars, this is how the material world is created, how Lord Vishnu comes into the universe, and how Lord Vishnu is within the heart of every living entity. This is a very detailed technical explanation given by our acharyas based on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is very important. And here we see that Lord Brahmā is going through systematically. Krishnadas Kaviraj is summarizing in great detail what has happened, explaining that Lord Krishna is the original Narayana. We've often discussed how there are some South Indian sampradayas, the Madhvas and Ramanujas, who are of the opinion that Lord Narayana is the origin of Krishna and Krishna is an avatar of Lord Narayana. But based upon the Srimad Bhagavatam, our Gaudiya Sampradaya, Jiva Goswami, the great Acharya of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, has concluded in his Krishna Sandarbha that Lord Krishna is the origin of all incarnation. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. And we see also in the Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta how Krishnadas Kaviraj has quoted this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, where he explained the position of Lord Krishna. Very detailed explanation, very technical explanation. So devotees should become very familiar with every word involved in explaining the unique position of Lord Krishna. This is not just sentiment. Srila Prabhupada used to often quote the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, that where it is explained that apply your logic and your reason and study the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is very important. Prabhupada used to often quote also a verse cited in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Siddhanta Bharyat Kare na alas. Alas means laziness, that one should not be lazy in understanding the Siddhanta or the conclusive understanding. But the person may ask a question, well, why should we study it in so much detail? It should be studied because by doing this, all doubts will be removed. All doubts will be explained. This is very important. Just like the other day, yesterday I was reading, we have the Prabhupada Disciples Association, PDA. There's a WhatsApp chat where many devotees make many comments. And various devotees were making a comment that some devotees, some very nice Vaishnavas from ISKCON Bangalore, were doing a Sitaram Kalyana, or the marriage of Lord Ramachandra with Sita. This is a very popular festival in South India. And the issue came up with some devotees whether this procedure, this festival, was bona fide. Now, it is really not our position to challenge whether the marriage of Lord Ramachandra with Sita is bona fide. That is in the Shastra, in the Ramayana. But the point came up with some devotees whether or not Srila Prabhupada introduced such a festival as a regular practice. And those of us who were there during his manifested presence, we know he did not. There was another ceremony also called Rukmini Satyabhama Kalyana, the marriage of Rukmini and Satyabhama with Lord Krishna. Now, these, it's not that it is bogus. We don't say it is bogus. The point is, was it specifically authorized and mandated by Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada was very concerned how we introduced the deity worship in ISKCON. The fact that Prabhupada introduced some Sitaram deities in a few places is not a blanket allowance for anybody to introduce new festivals. Now, somebody may argue that there is a conversation in the Srila Prabhupada conversation book where somebody brought up the point that in the Brahmā Purana, there is a description of the marriage of Lord Krishna and Radharani. There is a section of the Brahmā Purana which describes that. But Prabhupada did not introduce this Radha Krishna Kalyana as part of a ISKCON function in his movement. So devotees have to be very careful before introducing new methods or new festivals. This is just like I've often complained as part of these discussions, how some devotees are now busy manufacturing and inventing mantras. Now, we do know what Prabhupada thought about that. It's well documented in his books. We do know it from his own personal practice, how basically he wanted kirtans to be done, to be performed. Now, it is true that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastakam encouraged all the devotees that there is no restriction on chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is also a letter from Srila Prabhupada that says that you can chant any tune. There's no rules and restrictions for chanting the holy name. But having said that, we have to find out what is the preferred method that Srila Prabhupada wanted. In other words, Prabhupada was not very happy when he could see that devotees were inventing new methods of worshiping the deities or new mantras. But we see now that this is proliferating. Again, this is not a criticism of ISKCON Bangalore. These devotees there, Madhu Pandit, Chanchalapati, are doing very positive work, very good preaching work. They're engaging a lot of people in worshiping Krishna, making devotees, distributing books. It is not a criticism. The point is, we have seen in the last 46 years, so many things being introduced, so many procedures and different things being introduced that were not given by Srila Prabhupada. This was started right in 1978, immediately after the Mayapur festival, when in their collective wisdom, some of the leaders or misleaders started to introduce new ways of doing Guru Pujas, new ways of offering to the deities, new ways of kirtan, new ways of so many things. And it's still going on 36 years later, all on the basis of a misinterpretation of Prabhupada's statements. So we have to be very careful. Our allegiance as devotees, our fidelity as devotees is to Srila Prabhupada and the practices which he has given, the original unrevised teachings which he has given, and this is our path to success. And those devotees who do not follow that is guaranteed they will be bewildered. And we have seen this. Just recently, I had a devotee from Asia who sent me all kinds of postings. Oh, Prabhupada says here, Prabhupada says there. Why don't you reply to my questions? You should reply to my questions immediately. And you don't understand the philosophy. And who are you to speak about the initiation? And Prabhupada says, and I realized at one point, the person was not interested to hear. He was just interested to presenting his own speculation, his own concoction. And this is the problem. Our philosophy is that we do not engage in mental speculation. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. To understand the truth of religious principles is very secret. Guhayam, secret. How do we understand? Mahajano yena gatasa panta. This is from the Mahabharata. In order to understand the truth of religious principles, one has to hear from the great authorities, the Mahajan. In our Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri, the 6 Goswamis, all the associates of Lord Chaitanya, Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda, and then we have Baladev Vidyabhushana, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada. There is no lack of knowledge. There is plenty of knowledge. Simply one has to hear submissively and not manufacture interpretations. Otherwise, it's very easy to be lost. I know one devotee, one of our friends on this call, who brought to my attention, there's a devotee on various email threads that has been very vocal in expressing his opinion about bhakti, raganuga bhakti, sadhana bhakti, this and that. And when this devotee was confronted whether he was chanting his rounds or not, he started to insult the devotee, who inquired, oh, you are such a neophyte, you are such a kanishta, you are such a beginner. But the point is, that instruction was given by Srila Prabhupada. It's not something that we have manufactured. That is an instruction that is given by His Divine Grace. So if somebody does not follow that instruction, does not follow the principles Prabhupada has given, what is his position to talk like a big authority? What is anybody's position to talk like a big authority? Unless somebody follows the instruction of His Divine Grace, we know there will be misunderstandings, there will be misconceptions, and there will be some slips. This is our real success. Just like Raghunath Das Goswami has expressed in one of his writings, Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punapuna, that I take a clump of grass in my mouth and I offer my respectful obeisances. Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Durishyam Janma Janmani. I offer my respectful obeisances again and again at the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami. And this is my birth. This is what I hope to achieve, birth after birth. So this is our only ambition, that we can offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, hoping that we can render a little service. Srila Prabhupada Padam Bhoja Dulishyam Janma Janmani, that birth after birth, whatever may be our position in the future, that we can become His humble servant and remain a humble servant, not thinking that we've become big devotees, knowledgeable devotees, famous devotees. This is all nonsense. Very simple. When we study the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gopi Bhartuhu Padakamalayora Dasa Dasa Nudasa. Prabhupada explained one time, this is our philosophy, not to try to be number one. Simply become the servant of the servant of the servant of the damsels of Braja. This is our philosophy. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Vishwakarma Prabhu.
Thank you very much for that wonderful explanation of our philosophy, which we're reading from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, and is very in depth in its detailed understanding of creationism and our position in this material world as the eternal parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. These days, as we're aware, there's mass confusion in the material society. And we've got all these things going on, Vijaya Pandit, like the liberalism of woke philosophy, completely insane treatment of children in schools, teaching them that they can pick this or that gender depending on their point of view that day. We've got pandemics that have been running wild across the world, sponsored by governments and pharmaceutical companies and media companies as an entire conspiracy against mankind. So God is dead. Here in Canada, they're speaking about it. We accept the authority of science, the Prime Minister speaks. The authority of the scientific world is what we listen to. How about the authority of the Supreme Lord? This is the mistake. And the beauty of what we're doing here, everyone, in the Prabhupada Disciples Association is we're putting God at the center of every activity. We're putting a bona fide representative of Krishna in front of everyone's ears so that they can get the proper understanding. What is the purpose of human life? This bag of blood, pus, stool, and urine, of so-called material designations. I'm Indian, I'm Canadian, I'm American, I'm Australian. Complete nonsense. We're none of these things. We are simply the servant of the servant, as Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu so nicely explained to us. We're simply the servant of Krishna. And that is our common bond, everyone, that we all identify with this simple philosophy of Krishna consciousness being delivered to us from the brilliance of our spiritual master. I gave the example earlier the other day of the mouse becoming a tiger, wanting to be a tiger and then eat the guru. Well, this is the case of a lot of people that have come to Krishna consciousness in the early days. They got information. And by the way, Subal Swami, as Yaśoda brought up, he traveled on our Sankirtan bus for 6 months, Prabhu. Gave the class every day. We had a bus that was traveling around Canada and southern states at the same time as Vishnu John Swami had his bus. Well, we were from Toronto. We were unknowns, but we were still traveling. We had a wonderful Sankirtan party. There was a fellow B.B. Govinda now, as his name, was on that party. And Kashiram, who's now a sannyasi in the Gaudiya Math. All kinds of devotees with us. And it was a wonderful time. And I wanted to mention just briefly as we go to questions and answers, after a further comment by Yaśoda Prabhu, that in the early years, if Dvaipana, you'll know this, and I know this too, we never followed Diwali. There was never an issue of bringing up Diwali in ISKCON Toronto in the early 70s. What to speak of this throwing of colors? I can remember going to Mayapur. We would all stay in when we were there. We would stay in. We'd wait till they'd throw all the colors over everybody. I'd stay in. All the brahmacharis and all the devotees, the Prabhupada soldiers stayed in. It wasn't something that we were interested in throwing colors. So a lot of these things have become, some kind of popular Hindu activity to draw people in from that group, to take their money. That goes on. They're trying to compromise our philosophy. So this is the change. So many changes that Prabhu mentioned. Kirtan changes, deity worship changing, changing of offering of prasadam, the changing of the books, the changing of the management systems. The whole thing is just one Sahajya group that has changed everything. And this is also unfortunate. And as a result, we see nobody is in the temples. Vinod, I sent Yaśodā a picture. There's a fellow that we know, Basha Ghosh, who's a friend of mine. And he's in the, I think he's the GBC or president in Gujarat. And he comes to Hamilton here because Bhumna, who is a devotee of ours from the Hamilton Yatra originally, is become his son-in-law. So he's married to Bashu Ghosh's daughter. So Bashu Ghosh has been going on a constant tour. He seems to be traveling constantly. He has a big air miles benefits. So he's back and forth from India. You know, he has a big budget for it. You can't travel around without lots of money. But anyway, that's not the issue. But I noticed he's traveling. So he traveled. He's been 3 or 4 times back and forth from India. I'm following him because we're friends. I complimented him. Geez, you've got a very nice budget for travel. So he's back in the States. And he was in Atlanta there for a time. And he puts up the pictures and all this and that. And then he says, well, I'm in Mississippi now. I'm at the temple in Mississippi. And I looked at it. I thought, geez, okay. He goes, I'm attending Srimad Bhagavatam class. Okay. And he's taking a picture of the speaker. Okay. So he takes a picture of the speaker. Dwaipana, you know how many people were in the temple room? Besides him? Nobody. It was completely empty. So this kind of change, these kinds of issues, not only are the churches empty, but unfortunately, without the support of the East Indian community, a lot of these centers are empty, and now they're hiring people to operate them and carry on with their mission and their movement, known as the ISKCON movement. So Yaśodā-nanda, could you please comment if you would like further, and then we'll go to questions.
Well, this is a point that many devotees have expressed concern, because we see, especially those people who come from Judeo-Christian backgrounds or Christian backgrounds, they know that right now there are many different editions of the Bible. There are literally hundreds of different sects and groups and different organizations claiming to be representing or following Jesus Christ. Now, the point is, we do know that they do not have an authorized, bona fide, disciplic succession, because we see that all these different interpretations have divided Christianity. Now, we don't criticize their faith or their respect for Jesus Christ. That is not the point. The point is that the original texts of the Bible have been translated in various languages, and various interpretations have come up. And you will find that many of these major sects or groups have got all these different interpretations. Now, in our movement, there is a lot of people who are accusing us, accusing us of being Ritviks, of deviating from Prabhupada. I say, no, this was the original instruction to be followed. There is no record by Srila Prabhupada in the last few months of his manifest presence of him appointing, nominating, or selecting any Diksha gurus. That is not what he did. It's a pious belief to believe that. I mean, that was a very strong belief of a lot of people for about 10 years. But when we carefully and scrutinizingly analyze and discuss the full record and start asking questions, why were these discussions not taking place in 78, 79 to prevent the disaster that took place? They really have no clear answers. Prabhupada is a perfectly self-realized soul, and everything he did, everything he said is perfect and complete. There's no need for all of these different crazy interpretations. And we've seen the result of these interpretations. This is simply nonsensical mental speculation, and devotees should refrain from that. Devotees should accept the order of Acharya, the final order of the Acharya, specifically referring to how he wanted initiations to be conducted in his movement, and not change his teachings, not pollute his books. These books are the direct revelation of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to his pure devotees, Srila Prabhupada. We've often been reading lately from one of our compilations where Srila Prabhupada explains, it's called The Unique Historical Position of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. I'm just going to read a brief statement here so that we can focus on this point. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 50, 1, 13, 50. And this is exactly relating to the point that was made by Vishwakarma, the current tendency of replacing God with so-called material science. Srila Prabhupada says, when there are too many asuras in the world, then it becomes a hell for those who are devotees of the Lord. Due to the growth of the asuras, the mass of people who are generally devoted to the Lord by nature, and the pure devotees of the Lord, including the demigods in higher planets, pray to the Lord for relief. And the Lord either descends personally from his abode or deputes some of his devotees to remodel the fallen condition of human society or even animal society. Such disruptions take place not only in human society, but also amongst animals, birds, or other living beings, including the demigods in the higher planets. So this is a very important. Prabhupada says he deputes some of his devotees to remodel the fallen condition. This is the position of his divine grace. He was deputed by Lord Krishna himself to remodel the condition of human society with his transcendental teachings and his perfect, pure, devotional life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I see I was hoping that our friend Rathayatra in South India may share a few words with us this evening. It's the morning time there, I take it, for you, Prabhu, isn't it? Your microphone working, young man?
Thank you very much. Very nice morning here.
Excellent.
I'll say a few words. Lower than a straw in the street. Lower than a straw in the street. I can't even comprehend that. So I'm just going to listen this morning. I need to listen more. Thank you, everyone. Dandavat for
Thank you very much. It's good to see you. It looks very beautiful there in South India. And it's our hope that your community will grow and expand with lots of focused Prabhupada disciples moving forward into the future, and be guaranteed there will be success. The truth is something that is cannot be oppressed by anyone or anything. The truth stands above all. Let's go to Vinkat. We have a point here that was from Vishwa Garuda. Could you read it for us, please?
Sure. Vishwa Prana Prabhu, I think. He says, Utah temple collections during Holi is enough to run the temple for 12 months. So the justification is utility is the principle. It's more a fundraising event. That's what they say.
True. Okay. I mean, I think that the main point is this wasn't so much to target them for what they're doing, but to say that the movement has changed dramatically from the 70s, when we were part of a mission that was being designed by Srila Prabhupada for specifically promoting the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Nectar of Devotion, and Srimad Bhagavatam. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, which would be, the main focus of the activities of the devotees in the temple. Now, I know Charu Prabhu quite well. He came to Toronto. We started the traveling Sankirtan party for North America in Toronto when I was the president. And I must say that they are changing the style of festivals dramatically when I've seen them being filmed in Utah online. And what you'll see is a lot of dancing, Indian dancing, some kind of concocted plays, some type of rap chanting, and guitars and all kinds of, show business type techniques for drawing people's attention and collecting money. But if you go and see his classes, there's nobody in the temple. After 22 years, him and his wife are the only ones that can cook the prasadam to run the buffet there. I go, well, after all that time, where are your people? Like, it's not for, I'm proud of him for what he's achieved, but his role in the elected guru system has also become, what I feel, a sahajiya position in the evolution of the Sankirtan mission. And this appeal for money and followers, nadanam, najanam, nasindarim, this type of perspective on preaching work is not what we're doing in the Prabhupada Disciples Association service. We're only interested in promoting the original teachings and practices of Prabhupada. Yaśodā, Prabhu, please.
Well, again, this is a topic which is being discussed by many devotees. This is not a personal attack on any individual.
Most not.
Especially with many devotees which are trying to spread Krishna consciousness. The problem is, we know the history. There were thousands of devotees in the movement in 1978. And within a couple of years of that new method of preaching which they had, almost 85 to 90% of the original disciples, for lack of a better term, basically were no longer active in ISKCON. So now we have a situation, you've got all of these different large properties, some farms with hundreds of acres, and they won't allow Prabhupada to be the Acharya. They won't allow Prabhupada's original books to be in these places, because this is all related to that living guru ideology and this madness which has infected everybody. It's a big problem. Now, I just want to say with regards to ISKCON Bangalore, because I've seen some comments on various chats, we are not criticizing these people. They're in a very, very difficult situation between a rock and a hard place, because they've been sued by ISKCON leadership, by the GBC of ISKCON, specifically the leaders in Delhi, Bombay, and Mayapur, for their crime of worshiping exclusively Srila Prabhupada. They're being treated like criminals. They've been harassed and persecuted. ISKCON has spent over $20 million suing them to try to get control of the Bangalore temple. I'm referring to the Hare Krishna Hill. And what is their crime? Their crime is they've accepted Prabhupada's original system, the final order for initiations, and they exclusively allow only worship of Srila Prabhupada and the previous Acharya in the temple. They're being treated as criminals and deviants by the leadership. Now, for those people who know what is going on, who knows the history of what has taken place since 1978, we've seen what has happened. There are a lot more serious things going on besides the exclusive worship of Srila Prabhupada. Now, this is not a proper forum to start to air dirty laundry or to criticize devotees. This is not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is emphasize the return to Srila Prabhupada's original Vani and follow Srila Prabhupada's instruction, so that those devotees who seriously want to go back home, back to Godhead, and follow His divine grace can do so. This is the whole idea behind these classes. That's why we also use the term readings and discussion. This is not a talking down to people. This is a reading and discussion so devotees can read from Prabhupada's books, every word, and feel inspired and renew their dedication and their enthusiasm to serve His divine grace. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhu, Haribol. I wanted to further, and we're certainly open for people to raise their hand here and ask questions, but I wanted to bring up a point that came about our discussions. It's very important to understand the difference between those that are living and those that are not here currently, because it is important to understand that what we're doing is a continuation of the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya day by day. Is it important to understand what's going on in the historical sense? I think Venkat Prabhu brought it up about the history. Is you learn from history so that you avoid doing the same thing moving forward into the future. So is it important? Is this related to Krishna? We've just read a whole section about creationism and philosophy from Prabhupada. We've also been reading different quotes and examples from Prabhupada, reading scriptures, and now we're discussing modern day situations that we're in, not only in the society outside of the spiritual circles, but also within, to understand what is going on. Is that relevant? I think it is, because everything matters in the association of devotees. And it's important for us to discuss these matters so that the people that are coming here to these classes, and we have a lot of new bhaktas and bhaktins with us, that they properly get directed in such a way that they don't fall under the spell of philosophy that is Sahajya. Venkat, could you comment, please? Bhaktivedanta in South India.
Yes, Prabhu.
Please.
Yeah, I don't really have much to comment. Yeah, the quote from last week or last class was, those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. So, yeah, I mean, I would just like to say that I think we should always be able to discuss philosophy, and it shouldn't be taken as an attack on any particular person or anything, you know, like, I don't think Srila Prabhupada wanted us to be like, what do you call it? Like we have allegiances to a particular group, and then if we try to discuss some philosophical issue, then it's like, you know, it's taken as an attack against the whole group like that. So I just, yeah, that's my only comment, I guess.
Exactly. I see we have a question from our friend Vishwagaruda. Prabhu,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Vishwapran Das, yeah.
Well, where are you? Tell us.
I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, excellent. Oh, Vishwagaruda, yes. We met you the other day, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Thank
I was part of
Yes.
ISKCON Bangalore, the Hare Krishna Hill, from
Okay.
the scratch to even, accepting Srila Prabhupada. I was the front runner facing the wrath from all the GVC men and everyone. So I know the transition, what exactly happened, and the whole history. And here, all the devotees, I've been also reading those conversations. I understand what Venkat Prabhu is saying right now. He's not that he's on the other side of the table, he's on the same side of the table to discuss the same topic. I totally understand where he is coming from. And there has been a lot of criticism on this very particular topic about introducing rasabhas, bringing Vaikunta mood and Ramanujacharya style of Brahmotsav and Kalyanam and Abhishek and worship of Balaji and so many things. But I, it is when you say, for example, devotees go on selling caps or stickers on the street for Sankirtan, or even this very example of celebrating Holi to raise money. Compared to that, having a Brahmotsav festival, how authorized it is. Definitely you can understand the value. Definitely it is very valuable. And it has its own sentimental value for attracting the crowd in a particular manner. Meaning, for example, if you go to Gujarat, people love to think that, Krishna is Yadav. He is our man. And Orissa people think when we celebrate Rath Yatra, oh, you guys are celebrating our festival. So they tend to relate with it. The same way South Indians tend to relate with these kind of festivals and all that. I agree there is, from Tattva point of view, it could be debatable, but it definitely brings in lots and lots of pious people in South India. And it's kind of a bridge preaching, I would say. It's not exactly, and like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu said, the difficulty is very, very acute. Like I remember Infosys, Narayan Murthy giving a check for 200 crores, one single check, 200 crores. And because of the lawsuit, you cannot withdraw that money. You just cannot withdraw that money. That's the kind of situation they were in. Even it's been like that. Of course, now uh, the preaching has gone in a much different level. So we cannot even compare what actually is happening there. So I think this discussion could be in a favorable sense. Like, instead of having not on the other side of the table, on being on the same side of the table, to discuss what better can be done. How else can we approach? Okay, if we are bringing the same style of approach in North America, maybe it is not relevant. Yes, just like in any organization. I work in an IT firm right now. So we call it agile transformation. So agile simply means that you are being really agile. Okay, if this did not work, then let's talk about what could be a better solution to do. So those are the things we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to ask in a similar tone that
Yes.
I have been preaching simply on the Zoom class because I cannot be on either side of the camp. I am not actually. I don't have a banner, but a situation like that, how best I can reach out Srila Prabhupada's message without a banner.
Okay, let me respond. There is only one banner from
Srila
our
Prabhupada, yes.
That's it. No two banners. The main problem is the misunderstanding that has come about due to personal motives of many people that we've experienced in our journey of devotional service for the last, between myself and Yaśodā and our group, hundreds of years of experience. So basically our goal is to keep people focused on the simple principles of Krishna consciousness, just like in Canada here. We're very successful making new devotees, not Indian people, by the way. Indian people by nature, I had the largest congregation of Indian people in Toronto when I was the president there for many, many years. They're automatically receptive, as you use the term, and largely sentimental about their realization. But the actual pure understanding of the relationship between us and Prabhupada is very clear. So there is no two banners. There's only one banner, that's Prabhupada's banner. But there are so many different interpretations of it by various neophyte devotees. And what we're trying to do is help them. Say, for example, I've had lots of people come to me from the Madhu Pandit camp. They've showed up here in Hamilton. They come to Toronto. They have relatives here, all kinds of different people. I don't recall their names, but they never come back. They're not interested. That's okay. Carry on, do what you're doing. That's fine. And we'll continue to develop the Hare Krishna Society with our group of membership, which have a clear understanding of how the management should be done by the GBC. We have direct experience when Prabhupada was here, how Prabhupada's instructions should be studied and learnt carefully and properly understood, how the initiation processes should be, they should be handled, just like when we were initiating people back in the 70s with the direction, same methodology, no change. So it's one banner. We're not a sectarian group. We're a Prabhupada disciple group. Thank you. Go ahead, your microphone, Mr. IT.
Okay.
Prabhu, your microphone. Sorry.
Yes, I've been following. Sorry, I've been talking on the mute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's okay.
So I was saying, I understand. So it's like we are talking, we are saying, but then
yes,
who is hearing? Who is hearing us? The GBC is on their own. I mean, like they
that's
don't
okay.
even. Yeah.
Prabhu, let me tell you something. A brief story. I had a situation in Toronto where some East Indian people put guns in the temple. In fact, some of them we got them initiated by Prabhupada. I was preaching to them. They became initiated. We had a large committee and we were in a fundraising situation because our temple was going to be sold for power of sale in 1980. We got the building in 1975 and we had to arrange financing. We had a vendor take back on the first. Now I had tricked the owners of the temple to sell it to the Hare Krishnas, even though they said they wouldn't sell it to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. I told Prabhupada that story in Mayapur. In his room, he invited me to tell the story to Krishna Das Babaji and him. It was one of the highlights of my life, I must say, if not the top highlight. So what happened was I had a committee of 25 East Indian leaders in the city. This was far beyond any kind of development, even in India with Madhu Pandit. I don't even think he had started. We were way in a different game already. And we decided we were going to go ahead and try to raise the money to pay the temple off so that it could stay in this prestigious location without being sold, just north of the Parliament buildings in one of the most important cities in the world. It is. It's become more important. Now the building's worth $45 million. So We go ahead, and then there's a big battle, a confrontation. People planted guns in the building, and then they called the police on us, and they arrested the white devotees. They tried to destroy us. There were all kinds of threats. They ruined the fundraising drive that we had. It was very, very significant, all in the effort to please our guru. So this type of problem has come about. We're misunderstanding purpose. Our purpose is to help. We would like to help other devotees understand what is Prabhupada's message. Now they're going to say, well, how do you know? How do we know? You can sit here and come to a class with us. Yaśoda will tell you 1,000 stories of his personal experiences with Prabhupada. We're trying to keep it real. We're trying to hear what is Robert is saying. We're trying to keep it at a level where everybody can understand these simple truths without our motive. No one here, Prabhu, I know you're not here to get followers. I think you can appreciate we're not interested in that. We're just trying to help people understand Prabhupada's teachings the way he presented it. That's why I mentioned about Diwali. I'm not kidding. In 1973, there was no question in the Toronto temple, we had 60 devotees living in one house. We never celebrated Diwali. There was no feast. It just changed as time went on and people wanted to do that. Okay, you know, and Charu, like you said, in wherever he is, Salt Lake City, you know, I like the person. He's a very nice person. I had a lot of good relationship with him. But when you get involved in this type of system where you don't follow the DOM, direction of management, that Prabhupada gave, when you change it to a centralized situation where you have a GBC authority and they destroy the position of the temple president, this destroys the essence of how Prabhupada taught us personally to run his mission. So we're just trying, this is again, well, I won't get into it anymore, but this is basically what our group is doing. And believe me, behind the scenes, we're working with our people, our God brothers and God sisters, to continually understand what is a better way to bring the Prabhupada banner forward in a positive way without, you know, dealing with the GBC. Now, I'll finish. I'm just getting back to the story. They put the guns in the building. They got the newsprint. We had 800 articles against us. There were guns in the Hare Krishna temple. We bought it, an unbelievable building. There was everything going on negative. And I got all of the information about this story. I have a huge file here because I also am a very successful businessman, was anyway. I know how to do things. I compiled a huge package for the GBC to try to get them to understand what happened and how we were abused, how this thing was so terrible. And you know what they did about it? Zero. Gopal did nothing. Pathetic. Absolutely. Why did we leave? Because these people drove us out. This was a pathetic experience. Nandi Keshwar in Montreal, Bahudak in Vancouver, Lakshmi Nath in Ottawa, myself in Toronto. We had 4 God brothers that worked together in the spirit of Prabhupada's mission. And then Gopal came in and destroyed the whole thing. Now he won't even let the Prabhupada books, the original books, be distributed in India, as you know. I know Gopal. In fact, I was the one that appointed him to become a guru because we were having so much trouble with Kirtananda, who was a maniac. How is that movement? Sahajya, not interested. And we recommend people, if you're going to go there, go ahead, deal with it. We're not interested. And I direct all of us to stay on this platform. Yaśodā Prabhu. Sorry for getting so intense. I apologize, Prabhu.
Yeah,
I'm not-
at this point,
I'm
by
Irish.
Vishwa Garuda Prabhu, sorry if we didn't get your name straight, Prabhu.
Vishwa Pranadas.
Because, yeah, Vishwa Pran Prabhu, Hare Krishna. My apologies for misrepresenting your name.
No problem.
I trust you will forgive us for that. You know, I was in South India and preached there for several years with Guru Kripa first. We were the first devotees in Bangalore in 1972. We went there, we made some life members, distributed some books, and all the collections were being sent to Prabhupada for the construction of the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan. And all along, Bangalore was a small outpost. It was not, at least in the 1970s, during the manifested presence of Srila Prabhupada, it was not like a large temple. There was some life member program. There was a few devotees. There was a devotee named Shankar Brit, who was an educated young man that Achyutana and I made a devotee. Of course, Prabhupada's potency made him a devotee, but he was quite active in trying to structure the Bangalore temple. He knew local people. He had very good organizers to arrange for programs. So, and I believe after some of us, I mean, I was driven away in 1979 because they didn't like my position on that they should not sit on Vyasasanas and take these titles and all of these things and pranam mantras. So, but that was ultimately, it's all Krishna's arrangement. But after that, I went back to Bangalore for a little bit, and this was in, I believe, in April of 1979. Shankar Brit was there. There were several American devotees, several Indian devotees. And it was a big meeting where one of the leaders from Mayapur came there. And what I saw basically was an attitude that those people that were not fully behind their new guru project were basically, it was a political situation. Like there was a big meeting where one of these leaders had made accusations that I was trying to do fire sacrifice to kill the 11 gurus. And I was thinking, like, where is this coming from? And there was a big meeting where I personally confronted each and every devotee, including one of those leaders from Mayapur, and pointing my finger at them, is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Because it was a political rumor. It was nonsense, basically. It's very similar to what Chanchalapati and in Madhu Pandit had to endure from the ISKCON leadership with the character assassination, the harassment, the lawsuits, the threats. They've engaged some pundits to do some special tantric sacrifice against them, that these people from Mayapur. So we do know the story of what has happened. There's a pattern. There's been a pattern of harassment, discrimination, and any discussion that goes back to the root cause of the problem is cut immediately out. If you try to discuss what happened during Prabhupada's presence with his instructions, they will not hear it. They will not allow it, because automatically when that comes up, the whole history that comes up, what happened to Solochan, what happened to so many devotees that were kicked out? What happened to devotees in the Gurukul? What happened to so many temple presidents that did years and years and years of service? I mean, I know devotees in Usala, like Dvaipayana, Ugrashrava, Balaram, so many devotees that did a tremendous amount of service. If they try to say anything to correct the situation, the management will just poo-poo them, say, who are you to say anything? And this is the problem. This was a corporate takeover for usurping the assets of ISKCON. So the point is, what we're trying to do is refocus devotees on Srila Prabhupada, that those devotees who feel totally alienated, who feel basically disconnected from Prabhupada's mission, because the leaders would not allow open discussion. Now it's being forced upon them with the modern technology. That, for example, that PDA, that Prabhupada Disciples WhatsApp chat, we're seeing so many devotees raising a lot of issues. So I don't want anybody to misunderstand that we're trying to criticize devotees in Bangalore or anything, because that is not what we're trying to do. I still have lines of communication open with these devotees, the leaders there. They are very good devotees, very exemplary devotees. They do good things. Our point is, here's my point. The issue is, it has only been 46 years since Prabhupada departed, and we have seen so many things infiltrated in the society. New mantras, new pranam mantras, new ways of doing this, new kirtan. They concocted so many things. And if ISKCON Bangalore wants to be seen as a leading group to reform things, they have to be very careful what they do, because people will ask questions. And the foremost question people ask, did Prabhupada introduce this? And it's not, I mean, there's a lot of things in South India that they do, but many of these procedures are from the Madhva and Ramanuja Sampradaya. The question we have to ask ourselves, did Srila Prabhupada introduce these procedures and things? Now, I know with South India, it's very special because these people, they love pujas, they love Sanskrit chanting, they love these things. What did Srila Prabhupada want us to do? Why did Prabhupada not introduce this in his physical presence? That is a question. I mean, because, for example, I know that there's some people every year around New Year's, they have some electronic music kirtan to bring people in. Well, if you're familiar a little bit with Prabhupada's teachings and that famous letter Prabhupada wrote to Sudama Maharaj, where he told him to stop this kind of electronic music and these kind of kirtan, and just to do kirtan and preaching and kartal and mridangas. Then Prabhupada had a standard. He wanted his devotees to follow a certain standard. We don't need to invent standards. We don't need to try to please the crowd or trying to please certain people. And this is not a criticism. This is a basic fundamental point of which direction should devotees follow. We as followers and students.
I was making the same point. We should have a constructive criticism on how we should conduct ourselves and promote, Srila Prabhupada as a center. That's all I was also saying.
Prabhu, could you, by the way, I see that you've written something there. Would you like to read it out to the group? And if you want, we can.
I was just saying, because maybe most devotees here might not know, the entire Long Island lawsuit, which is historically 20-year-old lawsuit, is actually started against me. It says Edward versus Kelly, Kelly versus, Garuda. The title of the case is Kelly versus Garuda, if you recollect. That's me.
I know.
Okay. I've been talking to Nimai Pandit over the years.
Yes.
And we're always ready to help out in any small way if we can. But, these types of legal matters are not our mission.
I understand. So I'm just familiar. I'm just saying I'm familiar with exactly the pattern that actually repeats again and again. So
I'm hoping that you can appreciate the fact that
totally. I see exactly what happened with you, happened in Bangalore, happened with me, and it's
it's okay. I'm an older man, and we only have a few years left of service, and we're going to take best use of the time. We would love you to participate with us in our innovations online. We have wonderful people, especially from South India. Bhaktivedanta, his Kṛṣṇa sent him to us as I don't want to embarrass him, but as a blessing and to help. And he, along with the other devotees that we're working with, have done a tremendous work. And we're building our numbers. Like today, Vinkat, how many people are now with the Prabhupada Disciples Association Facebook group?
I think around 7,000 now.
Yeah, how many are expanding by the week? I think we had 1,000 this week, I believe.
Yeah, like around 800 to 1,000 people per week. Yeah.
So we're gradually building momentum, and we've got other plans for book book printing and for management advice for our individual members in Turkey and Australia. So it's got a global position, Vishva, and we're working step by step. Nothing. Rome wasn't
So
built.
do we get these other languages also, the original books? Or just in
I just had an inquiry today about that, very interestingly, from our friend in Turkey. I had a chat with him, and he's anxious to start distribution to the Muslim people there. He said it's a great potential. But the problem is the BBT will not give him any help there because he doesn't accept their guru system. So I told him, don't worry, we'll be able to overcome that quite readily in a short time. So
Nice.
we're not going to discuss that right now, but we do have a lot of irons in the fire in terms of developing properly the distribution of the original books and the reprinting of them coming forward. So we've done a lot of work on that, where we're keeping it still hush-hush because, you know, there are legal reasons why we want to, you know, maintain our privacy, but at the same time, we realize.
Hopefully, if we win the case in Long Island, we will get to keep ISKCON Inc. and BBT is the beneficiary of ISKCON Inc. So you know that, right? So we all have to pray that we win that case.
All the documents from there in our files as well, because we've had our own devotees going to New York and to Washington, and we've researched all of the trademarks and all of the copyright issues. So it's a very fascinating opportunity for us. And I know Yaśodā and our group, all of us here, are very excited to have you participate with us. We really appreciate your input and your experience, because this is what is the strength of our group. This is not what outsiders may see as what it is. We're not letting them know how we're moving forward. And we do hope that if you do speak to Madhu Pandit, we're very good friends with Naveen Krishna Prabhu, as you know.
Yes.
And he is also a very good friend of Madhu Pandit. So Yaśodā deals directly with the Prabhu, and, you know, any assistance that we can give philosophically to help, we're there for them. Vinkant, anything else that you can see on the agenda today?
There was a question on YouTube.
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna to the assembled devotees. This is by Meera Mohan Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. I would like to know what Srila Prabhupada would say about his disciple growing coffee and promoting it.
About what?
Growing coffee and promoting it. Some a
I think
disciple. What do you think, Yaśodā? Please.
Well, we do know that coffee is not a bona fide practice for devotees, and it's not what Prabhupada recommended. I mean, I'm aware that devotees, for making money and support various programs, they do different things, but it's definitely not. Why not grow tomatoes, potatoes, squash, or if you want to grow some exotic thing, grow some cinnamon, cardamom, spices, cloves. Those are very valuable. They will sell. But growing coffee is considered an intoxication or a stimulant. So I don't know what they're referring to exactly, but it's definitely not recommended.
Mataji, let's put it this way. I mean, our goal is not to really direct people in these matters. Let them figure it out. It all comes from the strength of your Krishna consciousness. So let everybody take up the process like is recommended by Srila Prabhupada, and let Krishna guide them on their journey to help spread the Sankirtan movement in the best way they feel they can. Anyone else, anything else, Venkat Prabhu, before we end up?
No, I didn't have any other questions here. If anyone else has it, they can raise their
Yeah.
hand or.
And I want to thank Madan Devnath. That is Radha Madhava, who was, he is a Bengali devotee and a very good friend of mine who's living in Toronto. And he was initiated by Prabhupada Yashoda Prabhu as Radha Madhava after the deities in Mayapur. And I'm hoping that in the next few weeks he can come forward and share some of his wisdom with us philosophically in Krishna consciousness, being from Mayapur himself. So
Nice.
thank you, Madan Devanath, Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari. I just think he's a wonderful devotee. Here we have some question.
Shama Sundar.
In Australia, brother. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna to all the Prabhus, and thank you for the beautiful class. Very inspiring and a great pleasure to hear all the assembled Vaishnavas contribute. I just had a small contribution.
Yes.
It was just in regard to the topic about cultural activities, such as in India, the marriage of Lord Ram and Sita Devi. I read an article once by Bhaktivedanta Thakur. It was about the essential point that I gathered from it was about something called apostasy. And it was relating to apostasy in Krishna consciousness. Apostasy meaning that when someone migrates from their culture to another culture, initially they can embrace that new culture with great enthusiasm, but after some time, they start to miss aspects of their old culture, and they start to incorporate aspects of their old culture in their new country. So the example given was, say, the Krishna devotees, the Western Krishna devotees, for example, they would, at Christmas time, they would decorate their Tulsi trees with some Christmas ornaments or put some gifts under the Tulsi tree. So not exactly what Prabhupada taught the devotees to do, or for example, they would put lyrics, Christmas lyrics to a Vaishnav songs or the other way around. So I just wanted to share that information about apostasy, just as a sort of a giving some further meaning to, say, in Bangalore, for example. Obviously, we're dealing with Indian-bodied souls who have a very rich culture in Hindu practices. So obviously, incorporating aspects of those cultural aspects into their life, it's as Garuda Prabhu was saying, that one has to be quite flexible. And of course, this is not saying that we should in any way compromise Srila Prabhupada's standards, but I was just mentioning the apostasy as a genuine problem for conditioned souls who are trying to migrate to a pure spiritual culture, that when they leave, they're being asked to leave behind all their conditioned practices, which after some time can create a bit of a deficit in their cultural, conditioned cultural lives. So therefore they kind of fall back a bit on some of their previous cultural practices. So I just wanted to share that. I found it a very interesting article, the concept of apostasy, and how initially, I know I certainly experienced that when I joined Krishna consciousness. It was I embraced the full spiritual renounced aspect of the lifestyle. But after some years, I started to feel, like they say, water finds its own level. I started to drop back a bit to starting to miss some of the things I used to do, or some, so I just thought that the devotees in the group might, if they haven't heard already about apostasy, it might be a helpful concept to just share around the group. So thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I think what we'll do, Yashoda, if it's okay, we'll move forward for the kirtan. Thank you for the comment.
Excellent.
Excellent. And thank you, everyone, for your participation today in this discussion on Caitanya-caritāmṛta and the mission of the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which we're all involved in. And I want to remind you that on Saturday morning, we'll have Bhagavad Gita class at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sunday, Srimad Bhagavatam class. And upcoming very soon, the Nectar of Devotion class will keep you posted. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled devotees. Vanchakal
Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna
Prabhupada, Ibu Guru Premanande.
Vijay Pandey ki jai, Gormani ki jai,
Haribol Vishwakarma Prabhu ki jai.
Bhakti
Hare
Peter ki
Krishna, all glory
jai,
to Srila Prabhupada.
Bhakti Robert,
Jai.
Maharaj